In general definition, working poor is defined as working people whose income falls below a given poverty line. Despite so, measuring working poverty can be done in two ways, absolute and relative. In absolute terms, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, someone is labeled as working poor when he or she spent more than half a year in the labor force, but is unable to earn more than the official poverty threshold. In relative terms, the Statistical Office of the European Union classified a household as poor if its income is less than 60% of the country's median household income. Hong Kong takes the absolute threshold for defining working poor, with the poverty line for a family of four $70,600 in 2016 and $3,800 per person in a month.
According to the International Labour Organization, the number of working poor fell by 479 million between the year 2000 and 2015. Although there is a decrease in the numbers in the world, Hong Kong happens to be the opposite. According to South China Morning Post, the number of working poor families is increased by 10% in 5 years, even though the government claims to have been tackling the problem since 2013.
The purpose of the project is to understand the poverty and inequality in Hong Kong from the perspective of working poors. Thus, we went on the street in Saiwan and interviewed 10 working poors, including plate washing workers, security guards, delivery workers, fresh graduated bank officers, and shop assistants. Street interviews were not fully video clipped due to privacy concerns, yet we received consents to record the conversation.
咁我做保安啊，都係啱啱好攞得個最低個工資嘅咋，租間百零尺嘅屋，平時生活都係冇乜娛樂，普普通通咁過日子。我自問冇咩學歷專長，有份工已經唔錯噶啦，安安穩穩過日子就算啦。
When we asked about their views about their daily lives, 70% interviewees responded that they were poor, while 30% answered that they were not. They generally use living standards to determine whether they are poor or not. Although some people live below the poverty line, they can still barely maintain basic living. As a result, 30% of the interviewees do not consider themselves poor.
如果個上限高咗少少咧，咁攞翻啲錢都冇所謂嘅，起碼可以幫補下仔女嘅書簿費。
Most respondents favored overtime pay and low-income working family allowance, as these policies receive ratings of 6.5 and 6 out of 7, on average in regards to which policy would improve living standards. Minimum wage ranked third with an average rating of 4.7. Other methods, such as standard working hours, increase in job opportunities, paid leave and paid sick days, and increase in child tax allowance, had lower average scores ranging from 2.4 to 2.7.
80% respondents did not think about applying for Comprehensive Social Security Assistance (CSSA) scheme, while 20% respondents considered it. Regarding the reasons of not thinking or applying for CSSA scheme, the most popular reason given was that their conditions were not able to meet the requirements for the scheme. 2 of the respondents preferred on self-reliance, while one interviewee answered that they did not want their children to be discriminated in school.
Pragmatically speaking, in order to maximize their cost efficiency, employers would like to keep the working poor. Depriving the employees of their salary means saving the company's operating expenditure. As long as the social mobility remains unchanged and the working poor have no chances to move upward, the employers could keep on hiring the experienced workers without increasing their cost, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises which own limited capitals. This could be illustrated by the firm opposition of the employers against the rise in minimum wage. The subcommittee of the Legislative Council raised concerns about the financial burden. The working poor may face the dilemma between working on full-time jobs and working on a part-time basis to apply for CSSA payments. If more people apply CSSA, more money is needed to be distributed for public subsidies. Moreover, the government spent 816.6 million Hong Kong dollars on the school textbook assistance scheme for children's education in working poor families. If working poor can be alleviated, the government can distribute the source to other aspects.
The living standard of employees is affected on the working poor. Although they are eligible for subsidies for education and transportations, the households cannot apply for CSSA scheme. The low income cannot provide them with high quality of life. Moreover, 50% of the working poor households have 2 children or more. If they cannot receive better education because of working poor, they can't get rid of intergenerational poverty. NGOs such as Oxfam often release reports evaluating the extent of working poor in Hong Kong. One of the ways is to conduct surveys and analyze the results. Some practical solutions will also be proposed by them.
Most of our interviewees rated standard working hours as the most effective way to help soothe poverty and improve their quality of life. A fair overtime pay is suggested. Fairness could be marked by impartiality and honesty. Impartiality could be done by setting standard working hours by the company, then with the regulation of the government. Standard working hours may vary from job to job, like between blue-collar workers and white-collar workers. A standard working hours rather benefit the former, where most working pools are from. With this, blue-collar workers could have quality time with their family. Labor-intensive workers like dishwashing and cleaning could have a better work-life balance, as most of the white-collar workers do. And this is for equality. Apart from standardizing working hours, there should be a compromise overtime pay, namely for honesty. Unpaid overtime is of high opportunity cost, since workers could actually find another part-time job to earn more. To avoid a fixed year's poverty for the poor working class, a fair overtime pay has to be achieved.
To increase level of minimum wage. People who are working poor are mainly the low-income workers, for example, security guards, plate washing workers. Therefore, increasing minimum wage can directly increase the income of working poor people, causing their income become higher than the poverty line. Also, the level of minimum wage is not enough because the adjustment of minimum wage cannot catch up the increase of inflation rate. According to Oxfam report, the purchasing power in 2010 was $28, but it decreased to 26.2 in 2016, meaning that people need to pay for more when they buy for the same thing. Therefore, the level of minimum wage should be further increased to boost up their purchasing power.
One of the downfalls of our finding is that we could only interview 10 people, which is too few compared to the hundreds of thousands working poor households. Considering our small sample size, it is inaccurate to assume one's opinion can represent a whole group. For example, the responses provided by that particular security guard may not represent all of the security guards in Hong Kong. As some questions asked to the interviewees had some options provided, thus it limits their freedom to answer, which may cause inaccuracy.